race fans, welcome to my little show about motorsports I like to call In the Pits with me, StockCar Scott, here each Wednesday on the YouTube during the racing season, you know, when I feel like it. Let's see where to start this week. Well, Friday there wasn't any racing, everybody took the day off. There was a delayed broadcast of a K&N West race at Orange Show Speedway in Southern California, won by pole sitter Chris Eggleston. But I got distracted and I missed it. Garrett Archer told me Saturday night that he wasn't in it, so I guess I didn't miss much. The next K&N West race is the 10th of June at Colorado National Speedway. Then early on a Sunday morning here, qualifying at Monaco happened with my favorite, Lewis Hamilton, not making it to the last round without a wreck or mechanical failure for the first time in many seasons. And for the first time in as many seasons, Kimi Räikkönen put his Ferrari on the pole, which was Ferrari's first pole on the streets of Monaco since before I moved up here. Of course, I watched it later from a recording I made while I slept. When I woke up Saturday, I prepared to watch the 300-mile Xfinity race at Charlotte and loaded up the Monte Carlo for the evening's trip to the Evergreen Speedway for the Mark Galloway 150. The Xfinity 300 was a pretty interesting race. It was won by that Flying Ryan kid, Ryan Blaney, in a Penske Mustang, with Christopher Bale finishing fourth in his Xfinity Series debut in a Joe Gibbs Toyota. My younger brother's favorite, Happy Harvick, was second, and a driver vying to be my favorite, my next favorite driver, Austin Dillon, was third in his RCR Camaro, with bigger things to come on Sunday. Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s driver, Elliott Sadler, still leads the drivers' standings in the Xfinity Series despite a crash and a 35th place finish, with the next Xfinity race Saturday in Dover, Delaware. But that's next Saturday, and there's still this past Saturday and all the fun at Evergreen Speedway with the Mark Galloway 150 to cover, so let's get to it. My wife and I headed up to Monroe after the Xfinity race and watching the qualifying at Monaco. We stopped for an early supper on the way up because we figured the concession stand would be crowded with the big race and all, but it really wasn't too bad. So I did get a Mountain Dew, but I passed on the chili cheese fries for the night. We got out to the track as heat races were winding down. Oh, but I must apologize to the mini stock guys. I thought their main was another heat race, thinking to myself, boy, that's a lot of cars out there for a heat race, and because I did not plan to record heat races that evening, I did not record it. I didn't start recording it, and I didn't realize my mistake until it was too late, folks. Sorry, because it turned out to be action-filled, and it was won by Brian Cottrell, after three other lead lap drivers got black flagged after an early crash for moving their cars under the red flag. Next up was the street stock division for a 30-lap main won by Roger Drake over Steve Woods. That was followed by a spirited 23-car field of legends for a 40-lap main won by Dwayne Swanson over Dana Glenn by less than a second. Those first three races were on the smaller 3/8 mile track, the inner loop there. And while the preparations were made to change over to the big 5/8 oval for the big Mark Galloway 150, we fans were able to head down to the front stretch for a meet and greet with the local drivers for a few minutes there before the action began. All of the drivers had on their confident countenances as they met with their fans and their friends there on the front stretch. Of the 28 cars that showed up for the 150 lap annual shootout, 26 cars made it to the green flag, led by Vancouver, BC's Shane Harding alongside of Northwest veteran driver Travis Bennett, who led all of the laps through several cautions and restarts until the break at lap 100. After the break, that Northwest legend in his blue number 64 jumped out to the lead until a dozen laps later when his power steering hose burst, pouring fluid on the track in turn 1, causing the number 64 and 3 other front-running cars to crash out of the race. And the ensuing cleanup caused the shortening of the race by 10 laps to get it in before the dreaded noise abatement curfew. Travis Bennett missed the carnage set off by the hose failure of the 64 and led from the following restart until 3 laps to go, when Owen Riddle, who had been reeling in the leader, passed Bennett there and went on to be first to see the checkers at the Mark Galloway 150, 140. Travis Bennett was second, and Jeff Knight came back from a spin in turn 2 early in the race to finish third for the first race on the big 5/8 mile track this season after winning 3 consecutive races on the 3/8 mile track. This coming up weekend at Evergreen Speedway, they have drags and drifting, so please check their website for details. Meanwhile, at South Sound Speedway, they had a full weekend of racing with Bumblebees, mini stocks, hobby stocks, and limited late models. Saturday's mains were won by Zach Dalrymple in Bumblebees, Zach Florek in hobby stocks, Dwayne DeYoung in mini stocks, and Arlen Long in limited late models, with my friend Mad Max Schroeder in second. And I was looking forward to seeing Max run this week at Spokane in the Better All Auto Sales Twisted Tea West Coast Late Model Series in their 100 lap event at the Spokane Super Oval. But my wife has told me plans have changed. You know, wives will do that. So it seems I'm going to be missing the second race this season for my favorite series again. And it looks like I'll probably instead go ahead and go down to South Sound Speedway for a second time this season for the Northwest Super Late Model Series for their first trip to the fast little high-banked 3/8 mile track, along with the Baby Grands, Vintage Mods, and Legends. It will be Sherry Garber's first trip there ever. South Sound Speedway also had a full lineup on Sunday with Zach Dalrymple winning again in Bumblebees, Dwayne DeYoung winning again in mini stocks, and the team of Loban and Barbera was victorious in the hobby stock class, and the team of Barbera Carver was the winner in the limited late models. Like at South Sound, things were over Saturday at Evergreen Speedway by around 10 p.m. So we were home well before midnight. But that didn't seem to help me not missing part of the Memorial Day Racing Marathon. Yep. The answer to last week's question is F1. Yep, I missed the start of the F1 Grand Prix of Monaco, but it was replayed as soon as it ended. So I did see the start before setting in for race number 2 that day, the Indy 500. Vettel was able to push his Ferrari enough to get ahead of Kimi Räikkönen, his teammate there at the Scuderia, and bring home the win the first for over a dozen years at Monaco for the famous Italian car makers. My guy, Lewis Hamilton, was only able to battle up to 7th place and is now a full race behind Vettel in the points, with the next Grand Prix in Montreal, June 11th. Quick Mountain Dew break. Next on the day's racing marathon was the Indy 500. The big early story was that from the week before, that the Indianapolis pole sitter, Scott Dixon, was robbed at gunpoint in the drive-thru at Taco Bell as he sat there with retired driver Dario Franchitti. It didn't get any better in the race there the next day, where early in the event, Scott Dixon hit another car that was busy wrecking and wound up flying into a catch fence and the wall in the infield that destroyed his car and part of the catch fence. Later, he walked out of the infield care center like it was just another day at the office. Whew, those guys. After a few more hours and another big crash, Takuma Sato was able to stay ahead of Dancing with the Stars, Helio Castroneves, for his first Indianapolis 500 win in the 101st running of that race. Next up for the IndyCar Series are 2 days of road racing in Detroit this weekend. The last race of the marathon of motorsports last Sunday was the rain-elongated Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte, and it was great, folks, and I don't say that about many NASCAR races these days, and the outcome will play a factor in my choice of a new Cup driver to be my future favorite. My oldest brother's favorite, Chase Elliott, was out of the race early when a part from the detonating engine of Jeffrey Earnhardt went through the front of the Napa 24 Chevy, bringing it to an abrupt halt in the front dog leg to be pounded by the Miller Lite Ford of bad Brad Keselowski. The bad this week being his luck. So Keselowski, Elliott, and Jeffrey Earnhardt were out of the race before the race even had a chance to get a good start going there. Not even 20 laps. My wife's new favorite, though, Martin Truex Jr., had a strong car like he did last year and ran well all night long, but ran the good off of his good years in the final stage trying to catch the two Chevrolets of Jimmy Johnson and Austin Dillon as those two Chevy drivers attempted to save fuel while racing each other up at the front. Once Martin's tires lost grip, the Toad was able to catch and pass last year's Coca-Cola 600 winner. But his toadness was only able to rise as far as second after a miscalculation ran Jimmy Johnson out of gas with only 2 laps to go. The driver in the car that was able to nurse enough miles out of a tank of gas to see the checkers first was Austin Dillon in the RCR number 3 Chevrolet, which was the first time the number 3 RCR Chevrolet has been to victory lane since the fall of 2000 at Talladega, when the man, the Intimidator, Dale Earnhardt, won for the final time in his career, which was cut short at Daytona the following February. And now Austin Dillon, a legacy driver, is in the postseason with his first of hopefully many wins to come in that number 3 Chevrolet. Martin Truex Jr. hung on for a 3rd place finish at Charlotte to take the lead in the drivers' point standings over Kyle Larson, who finished 33rd after a miserable night. Dale Earnhardt Jr. got his first top 10 in quite a few weeks, with the 10th place finish, but Happy Harvick, my younger brother's favorite, was the best. He outdid that finish by 2 places in his Stewart-Haas Racing Mobil 1 Ford Fusion. One of the fun things that came out of post-race was the Toadmeister's behavior. If he was smoke, it would be rebellious behavior, but he is the Toad, so it's just whinny-whining. Somebody needs to give that boy a Snickers, so maybe he'll turn into Matt DiBenedetto or Matt Kenseth. Next week, NASCAR is at Dover, Delaware with Monster Energy Cup on Sunday. Xfinity will be on Saturday before I head down to South Sound Speedway, and the Camping World Trucks will be on Friday. So set your video recorders out here on the left coast, because it will be on while you are stuck in afternoon traffic. Locally coming up this weekend here in the quirky Northwest, like I mentioned, my favorite series, the West Coast Late Model Series, they're at Spokane at their Super Oval for another 100 lap event, and the Northwest Super Late Models are at South Sound Speedway for 125 laps of action. Evergreen Speedway again is having drags and drifting, while Western Speedway in Vancouver, BC is hosting bombers, claimers, and mini figure eights, along with a bunch of demolition events. Oh, I'm crushed. And so will a few metric tons of sheet metal be at Saturday night near Vancouver, BC. Well, that's it for this week. But before I finish, I must give a big thank you and shout out to my hero, Jeff Ritter, who works at Evergreen Speedway. Race fans, I'm telling you the truth. It is absolutely no stretch of the imagination to say that if Jeff had not visited here at Race Central yesterday afternoon to show me some of the basic stuff to do on the Devil Box, there would not have been a 97th episode of my little show about motorsports I like to call In the Pits with me, StockCar Scott. So thank you, Jeff Ritter. Big shout out. You saved the show, possibly my sanity, and taught this old dog a new trick. Okay, so you folks, go see some racing. You have 2 obvious choices if you like late models on asphalt. If you live in Eastern Washington, West Coast Late Models at Spokane. If you live on the west side, then it's Northwest Super Late Model Series at good old South Sound Speedway, which is now where I probably will be going after I help my wife and her son with the project that now brings him into town. Well, you know, look on the bright side. A big plus side to not going to Spokane includes getting to see Speed51.com race buddy Sherry Garber enjoy her first race at South Sound Speedway. And Molly Helmut will be running, so I can cheer her on. And, of course, the trip to South Sound will not require an overnight stay like Spokane would. But hopefully I will get to go to the Spokane Super Oval sometime this season to enjoy the West Coast Late Model Series at Sherry Garber's home track and do some antiquing and Walmarting in the Lilac City. They have 5 Walmarts in Spokane. So, join me here next week after we all go see some racing this weekend, but I want you to keep someone in your thoughts as you enjoy racing and time with your family. His name is Brian Kolodzi. I'm sorry if I ruined your name there. But unfortunately, occasionally we are reminded just how dangerous the sport we love can be, even for the crew and the folks in the pits. That is why we race fans aren't allowed to just roam around through that area until after the races are over. And even then, one needs to keep his or her head on a swivel to watch out for moving cars that are about to be loaded up for the night. Well, Brian, through no fault of his own, got caught in a bad accident, and that's just what it was, race fans, an accident. Now he is in Harborview with some life-changing injuries, and if you wish to help, donations are being accepted at the compassionate crowdfunding site called You Caring. All one word, You Caring. So go there if you can. I've already seen that they are well on their way to meeting their goal. And remember, if you find yourself in the pit some race day, please take care for your own safety and any young ones that are in your charge, because in the pits can be a dangerous place. But my little show about motorsports I like to call In the Pits is not a dangerous place. I try to make it family friendly so race fans of all ages like Kingston and racing and pacing can enjoy race results and commentary about the sport we care about. So please join me here next Wednesday on YouTube, as always, same StockCar time, same StockCar channel, so I can attempt to persuade you folks to attend a local racetrack and support the drivers that will grow to be your favorites. So go get out there, see some racing and have some fun. Please, go on. Go on now. See you next week.